Well, let's go in depth on this very topic. Joining me to break down on what this can mean for kids across the country is senior scholar at Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, Dr. Amish Adalja. Dr. Adalja, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Well, first up here, it appears the FDA is close to approving COVID vaccines for children, as we just heard, between the ages of 5 and 11. How significant is this?
It's going to be something that parents will highly value, because what we know is that children have had their lives on hold because there's so much worry about what this virus can do to them, how it will disrupt their lives, how it will disrupt in-person schooling. And to have a vaccine to protect children, to remove the disruption that COVID-19 has been to their lives is a major, major advance. Yeah, absolutely. And you think of all of the school officials that are around children as well, and how this could really help us moving forward. But doctor, talk to parents who are hesitant to take this vaccine for their child, to give it to them. There is an epidemic of misinformation out there. So what would you tell parents concerned about the safety of this shot for their child? It's really important to realize that there was very deliberate steps taken to make sure that this was going to be a safe and effective vaccine for children between the ages of 5 and 11. That's why we still don't have one, because there had been extra trials done, changes in the dosing regimen. And what we found is that this is a very, very safe vaccine, a very effective vaccine, and that it's going to be something that's favored by the risk-benefit ratio, that this is something that is going to be beneficial to your individual child's life. And we know from children that are older, between the ages of 12 and 17, that this has been a very safe vaccine. And you have to remember that COVID-19 is still a threat. It still disrupts children's lives. It's still, for those high-risk children, for example, with asthma, it can be something that would be very, very important. And it's just important to also to remember that there were many safety checks all along the way. And many of us had been clamoring for this vaccine earlier, but yet these trials still went on. And now we're getting to the point where there is enough data to say that this is the correct decision to make for children.
Yeah, we heard from our White House reporter there about the important part of the PR for this, to help explain this to parents and why this is crucial. How important will that be to those that are, we talked about people that are worried about the science, but people that keep hearing things like, emergency authorization. That can be scary to some people.
Right. So this is going to be something that really needs a proactive approach by public health authorities, by physicians, including people's personal pediatricians, because we want to kind of cut through all that disinformation and explain that an emergency use authorization doesn't mean that a vaccine is experimental. It's a separate pathway that we use during public health emergencies to get vaccines to people quickly, because we want to save lives, that we want to reduce the morbidity and mortality of an infection. So that's really important to do. And I think we have to be as proactive as we can be, because we know that the anti-vaccine movement is always going to be proactive with their disinformation campaign, and we can't be reactive, because we actually have the facts and we have science and we have rationality and reason on our side. They have none of that, but yet they seem to win sometimes when it comes to the vaccine hesitant, and that's not going to be acceptable as we move forward during this pandemic.
Well, meantime, the FDA may authorize booster shots of vaccines different from the ones Americans originally received. Let's talk about this, the mix and match approach. Why is that an appealing option, and what is the science behind it?
Well, mixing and matching has to do with using vaccines that are made with two different types of technology, because those two different types of technology might stimulate your immune system in two different ways and give you a bigger boost than if you got a booster with the same vaccine that you initially got. And we saw some of the hints of this data with the AstraZeneca vaccine, which is used in other countries, followed by mRNA vaccines. And now there is data that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which uses a separate type of technology, followed by an mRNA vaccine, may boost you to a much higher degree than if you were to get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine twice. So this is something that the FDA has allowed. Tomorrow's meeting with the CDC and the ACIP is going to be very important, because they're going to sort of parse through all that data and come up with a way to recommend this, if this is something they want to recommend to people that got the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work both ways, meaning if you got the mRNA vaccines, it doesn't give you any added benefit to get a Johnson & Johnson vaccine. But this is exciting, and I think this is a better way to optimize our vaccines, and kind of leads the way towards second-generation vaccines as we get further into this pandemic and try to improve our vaccines.
Dr. Amish Adalja, we really appreciate your expertise and your time tonight. Thank you for helping us with this.
Thank you.